How's everybody this morning? We're glad you're here. Let's stand to our feet. Let's worship together today.
And I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? Oh, it was my turn till I met. Come on! And I was breathing the night alive. Oh, all my failures I've tried to hide. It was my turn till I met you. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave. Oh, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave. Oh, out of the darkness into your mercy has saved my soul. And now your freedom is all that I know. We say, the old man knew. Yeah, Jesus, when I met you, you called my name. Shelter, I was an orphan, but you called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open, 'cause when you call my name, shout it, I ran out of that grave. Oh,
How is everybody this morning? Yeah. We are so glad that you're here. We're excited to worship with you. And every opportunity we have to lift the name of Jesus and make much of him is such a privilege. And to do so with you is a joy, it's an honor. So we're going to continue this morning singing about our great God. This God who would come to save. Our God saves, amen? Our God saves. In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name Spirit, Lord, we come. We gather together to lift up your name, to call on our Savior, to fall on your grave. Let's sing that again. In the name of the Father.
In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Spirit, Lord, we come. We gather together to lift up your name, to call on our Savior, to fall on your grace. Hear the joyful sound of our offering as your saints bow down, as your people sing. We will rise with you, lifted on your wings, and the world will see that our God saves. Yes, our God saves. There is hope in your
Son,
in the name of the Son,
Holy Spirit,
in the name of the Spirit,
Lord, we come.
Lord, we come. We gather together to lift up your name, to call on our Savior, to fall on your grace. Hear the joyful sound of our offering as your saints bow down, as your people sing. We will rise with you, lifted on your wings, and the world will see that our God saves. Our God saves. There is hope in your name. And mornings turns to songs of praise. Our God saves. Yes, our God
Hear the joyful sound of our offering as your saints bow down, as your people sing. We will rise with you, lifted on your wings, and the world will see that. And the world will see. Yes, the world will see that our God saves. Yes, our God saves. There is hope in your name. Morning turns to songs of praise. Yes, our God saves. Yes, our God saves. Our God saves. We declare that our God saves. Yes, we believe that our God saves. Oh, our God saves. Amen. Hey, we're so glad you're here with us today. Go ahead, turn around, shake somebody's hand, tell them hello, and then you can have a seat.
Morning, everybody. It's great to see you. Welcome to Community Christian Church, a place to believe, belong, and become. We're so glad you decided to join us for worship this morning. Please take a moment, open up your program. Inside there is this communication card. We would love to have every single one of you fill this out, whether you're here for the first time today or you've been here forever. We'd love to have you fill this out. If you are here for the first time, welcome. We're so glad to have you worshiping with us. You'll notice as you fill this out, about halfway down on the left-hand side is a small box that says first-time guest. Just check that. Allows us to know you're here so we can mail you some more information about community. And then later in the service, when the offering basket goes by, just place this card in there at that time. On the back of this card is a response card. It allows you to sign up for things that are going on around here. Coming up in 2 weeks on Sunday, February 24th, is our Starting Point events. We have a Starting Point lunch at 1 o'clock. It's a complimentary catered lunch, and it's a great way if you are new to community. You've just started attending here, whether it's today or a few months you've been coming. Here's a great way to get to meet the ministry staff and a few other of the new attenders. And it's an informal setting. It lasts just 1 hour. It's a great way to get to know one another. So hopefully you can join us for that lunch. If you can't make the lunch at 1, at 7:30 that night, we're going to have a gourmet dessert buffet. Okay, and now that's a half hour long, same purpose, just to meet the ministry staff. It's right after the evening service. So if you can't make the first one, come to the dessert. But don't sign up for both. We're watching, okay? So pick one of those. We'd love to have you be a part of that, and you can mark it on here. The next thing is really dear to my heart. It's Financial Peace University. We offer this each year. It is going to start this Tuesday night, February 12th. This 9-week course has changed millions of people's financial futures. So if you're interested in just getting out of debt, learning some ways to maximize your money, or maybe just getting on the same page with your spouse financially, this class is for you. So we'd love to have you sign up and be a part of that. If you mark on the response card you're interested, I'll send you a link how to register, get your material. But if you don't get all that done by Tuesday, just show up, room 135, 7 o'clock. You can take the first class for free, decide if you like it, then you can order the material and stick with us all the way through the class. So hopefully you'll join us. And this isn't a boring financial class. Dave Ramsey, the founder, is exciting. He's going to entertain, he's going to teach, he's going to inspire you every week. Take a look at this video.
Financial Peace University began about 20 years ago, and now today we've had over 1.5 million families go through this course. This is the place where we start happening to our money, where we start aiming our dollars at our goals. You got to make your money behave. You work too hard to get to the end of your life and be broke. There's a massive group of people out there trying to sell you stuff. They want to interrupt your plan. Don't cash out your 401k. I know your 401k looks like a 201k. Remain calm. The only people that get hurt on a roller coaster are those that jump off. God's all in this thing. He's all about fixing you. He's all about fixing me. There's a redemption story built into this whole thing. And every time I give, every time I understand I'm not an owner, I move along that spectrum from selfish to selfless. Now, this is a boot camp. I'm your coach. I've had some good coaches, and they lit me up a time or two, but it caused me to go places I couldn't go otherwise. You change your life when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, where you say, I've had it. This is how you get out of debt. You gotta run for your life. You gotta run. You gotta bust it. You gotta go like your life depends on it. What would happen to the kingdom of God if the people of God were out of debt? How much of this world could we as believers change?
Well, again, good morning. I get to introduce you to someone, to a group of someones I'm really excited about. I don't know how much introduction I really need to make right here. They're right here. Go ahead and stand to your feet if you would, and welcome to the stage, Watoto.
I'm so grateful for the
He is a strong tower. Here we go. Come on. Say Waymaker, Waymaker. Strong tower. Redeemer, Redeemer, Jesus. Say Waymaker, Waymaker. Strong tower, strong tower. Redeemer, Redeemer, Jesus, Jesus. Waymaker, Waymaker. Strong tower, strong tower. Redeemer, Redeemer, Jesus, Jesus. Waymaker, Waymaker. Strong tower, strong tower. Redeemer, Redeemer, Jesus, Jesus. To sing it, where I let go, thank you, Jesus. To sing it, where I let go, thank you, Jesus. To sing it, where I let go, thank you, Jesus. To sing it, where I let go, thank you, Jesus. Say, whoa, come on, let's give him praise. Thank you, Jesus.
All right, wasn't that awesome? Yeah, yeah. Would you rather hear them than me? Don't answer that. Don't answer that, come on. You can hear them again if you come tonight at 5 or 7. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later, but don't answer that. I'm talking about love today. I need a little bit from you guys, okay? All right, we're wrapping up this teaching series, Your Best Year Ever. And we've shared a lot of different principles and thoughts, and I'm excited about the last one because we talked about some goals. Frankly, in part 1, and then some different things about relationships, and then contentment, and I'm just kind of jumping all over the place about some of the things that we've talked about. But the Bible says that you should have your highest goal, and the highest goal that any of us should ever have in our life. I mean, it's very clear what that goal is. In 1 Corinthians 14:1, it says, let love be your highest goal. And that's what we need to strive for. And if you miss that, if love doesn't become a part of your life, if it doesn't define you, then you are missing your highest goal. And the Bible says the greatest quality that you can possess, that I can possess in all of life is to love God passionately and love other people deeply. And if we get that right, then, well, we're going to have not only our best year ever, but our best life ever. And that's why Jesus said the greatest thing that you could do in all of your life, and now he defines this in Mark chapter 12, verse 30. It says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all of your strength. And then verse 31, the second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There's no commandment greater than these. And now, not only did Jesus state this, but the Apostle Paul, he wrote these words in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, is known as the love chapter in the Bible. And at the very end of this chapter, Paul said this. He said, now these three remain. There's faith, and there's hope, and there's love. But the greatest of these is love. And then in the next verse, which is a chapter break, chapter 14, we have 1 Corinthians 14, verse 1, let love be your highest goal. Would you read that out loud with me together today? Let's read 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 1. Let love be your highest goal. Let love be your highest goal. And if you chase after that, you make it a value, you want it to define you, that you love God passionately, you love other people deeply, then again, regardless of what happens around you, you can still have your best year, your best life ever. But if you miss that, well, it's going to be less than. I mean, you miss your highest goal. You really do. I really do. There's a kid's book that says love is like a crayon because it comes in all colors. And I love this. These are statements from kids about love. And they asked Tammy, age 10, about kissing. And she said, it's never okay to kiss a boy. They always slobber all over you. And that's why I stopped doing it. Tammy, age 10, okay. They asked Bobby, age 9, if he knew any original love songs. This little 9-year-old boy said, yeah, I do. Here's the love song. I'm in love with you most of the time, but don't bother me when I'm with my friends. Bobby, age 9, already such a guy. I mean, he's a guy. And then they asked Carl, age 5. This is the keeper here. What is love? Carl said, love is when a girl puts on perfume and when a boy puts on shaving cologne and they go out and they smell each other. You've always wondered what true love is. Now you know. Now you know. There you have it. And that's particularly helpful maybe because this coming Thursday is, well, it's a celebration of love. It's Valentine's Day. So that's why I want to talk to you about love on this Sunday before Valentine's Day. Now, let me go ahead and say something. As a guy that's been married for 35 years, to those young guys that are in this room, maybe you've been married for just a few years or you're dating someone, and if that special someone, maybe your wife, maybe your fiance, maybe your girlfriend, if she says this to you, hey, you don't need to do anything for me for Valentine's Day. It's a trap. It's a trap, guys. Trust me on this. Do not fall for that. That's basically an IQ test is what that is. And I'm trying to help you out. It's I don't have any money. It doesn't matter if you don't have any money or not, okay? You have a kidney, right? You can sell one of those. You have 2, you only need 1. You can get by with 1, figure it out. There's 2 kinds of people in the world, those who find an excuse and those who find a way. Find a way. It's a trap. Just trust me on that, okay? I'm sorry, I just went off. It's just okay. Now, let me be upfront with you about love. Sometimes I get this right. Sometimes. But the truth about me, and I'm guessing the truth about you, is that sometimes you don't. I know sometimes I just don't get this right with other people. I've got a long way to go in this area, and it's the highest goal of all. And the main way that we show love for God, which is our primary calling, is to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. The way that we show our love for God is we love the people that God has placed in our lives. C.S. Lewis said this. He said, loving everybody in general may be an excuse for loving nobody in particular. And there's some wisdom there. Jesus didn't say, love your neighbor if he dresses like you. He didn't say, love your neighbor if she believes like you. Jesus didn't say, love your neighbor if they have the same values that you have. Jesus said, love your neighbor, period. Just love your neighbor, period. No qualifiers, no prerequisites. And Jesus said one time in Matthew 25, when you love someone that's considered the least in the world's eyes, not in God's eyes, should not be in our eyes, but in our culture's eyes, someone that's insignificant, somebody that's not an influencer, someone for whatever reason that our culture would deem them to be less than. Not God, not us, but our culture says if they're small, if they're unimportant, if they're less significant. Jesus said, when you love someone like that, it's like you're loving me. Matthew 25, verse 40, I assure you, when you did it to one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you are doing it to me when we serve others, when we love others. And so, now, I think most of us understand this. It's not the knowledge piece of this, it's the implementation side of this is where the challenge comes. I still have a ways to go. My guess is you may as well. I want to encourage you to go ahead and reach into your program, take out your message notes page, because it's going to be application focused today on how we can make love our highest goal, how we can increase our LQ, our love quotient. I mean, there's an IQ, our intelligence quotient. Then there's emotional intelligence, and I think you can increase that. I think some of us just kind of naturally have some of that, but you can certainly increase that. You can even increase your IQ, I believe. But I think the greatest area where we can increase our LQ, our love quotient, we can do better in this area. And so I think if Jesus was here today, there are a lot of things that he would tell us about this, but I think that he might want to help us to understand where we're at right now. So we have a starting place so we can see how we need to improve, where we need to go. And so he might say to us, hey, first of all, you need to test your love level. You need to test your love level. You need to understand where you're at so you know where you're going. Steve Raptakis wrote, my 11-year-old daughter and my 8-year-old son, they bickered. They fought over almost every single thing. They just never got along. And so I was really surprised when my daughter made this beautiful artistic card for her brother's birthday. Inside the card, she wrote these words. She said, happy birthday to my 9-year-old brother. I'm so glad to have a brother to love, so God gave me you. P.S., do not read this out loud or I will twist your head off. Okay. The depth of her love was kind of surfacey there. It was. And so we're testing our love level. If you want to really know how deeply you're loving other people, the Bible has a very simple 5-word test. Simple to understand, incredibly difficult to pass. Sometimes I pass this test. Oftentimes I do not. It's found in the book of Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. It says, consider others better than yourselves. Would you read this verse out loud with me? This is the LQ test. Here we go. Philippians 2:3. Consider others better than yourselves. Consider others. Jesus did. Wow. I do poorly on this test. Jesus did. The Apostle Paul wrote these words in Philippians chapter 2. It's a beautiful chapter about Jesus who emptied himself of all the privileges of heaven, and he came to this earth as a servant, the servant of all, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the only perfect person to ever walk on the face of this earth, and he humbled himself. He took the position of a servant, and he considered others. He considered others again and again and again. Philippians 2:7, it says, he made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant, and he humbled himself, and he became obedient to death, even death on a cross. Jesus drove the religious leaders of his day crazy because he spent so much time hanging out with, affirming, loving people who were the outcast. They were the outcast of that day. Luke 5, verse 30, but the Pharisees and teachers of the law, they complained bitterly to Jesus' disciples about his eating with such notorious sinners. Not just like your average brand X sinner, but those notorious sinners in that day. Jesus would go to the house of a dishonest tax collector by the name of Zacchaeus, and the religious leaders, they went crazy. He would show love for prostitutes who only knew what it was like to be wanted, desired for a few moments, and discarded after that. Luke 5:31, Jesus answered them, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. In the midst of a busy day, Jesus traveling, he would say to his disciples, let the children come to me, don't stop them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And he loved kids, and he wanted to express love and compassion to them. He's saying, I'm not too busy for these kids. They matter. Every day of his life, you can see, that's why I think one of the healthiest things that you can do, that I can do to increase our LQ is to spend time with Jesus and just read about him and see how he interacted with Jesus. And it might sound cheesy and dated and antiquated, but it works. It just works in our relationships. And we do ask the question, WWJD, what would Jesus do? How would he respond here? Sometimes I think it's that we don't ask that question because we don't want to respond the way that Jesus would. I know that's, well, he's the Son of God and I'm not. And it's challenging, it really is. And every day of his life, Jesus considered everybody as better than himself. Matthew chapter 5, verse 43. And the greatest sermon ever preached, the Sermon on the Mount, he said this, he says, you've heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Verse 46, if you love only those who love you, what good is that? Even scoundrels do that much. Even scoundrels love their family. So if we don't love people that maybe are unlovable, we don't love people that scoundrels or non-believers or whoever, however we want to define somebody that's not a follower of Jesus, that's not a God follower, if we don't love better than, then we're just the same in this area. And we're certainly missing out on our highest goal. So this is a challenge point. God calls us to love with the love of another kind, and Jesus considered others always. And I don't have any trouble being honest with you here now, treating some people as better than myself, and I don't. I mean, genuine VIPs, bona fide celebrities that I respect, I mean, people that I look up to. I mean, that's easy, is it not? I mean, there's people in my life that I've like, wow, I mean, I look up to them in a way, and it's easy when, it's that type of a person. Every now and then at Community, we'll do audience interaction. We don't do it every week, but we're going to do it today. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to share with the person that's seated next to you or around you. I want you to share with them the name of a celebrity or a famous person that you've met or you've seen up close, really up close. Now, don't do it yet. I've met a few famous people in my life. Not a lot. Mostly pastors and authors that I look up to. These are my people. These are my peeps. I mean, I've met a few of those through the years. And so, I mean, I haven't met a whole lot of famous people other than pastors and authors. I mean, I met Max Lucado and talked with him a couple of times. Met Francis Chan and had a 5-minute conversation with him one time. I met John Maxwell, the writer, a few times. And I was privileged to have lunch with John Maxwell a few years ago at a Team National event, and for about 30 minutes. And John Maxwell and I was going to take him fishing in the Everglades. I was really intimidated by that, to be honest with you, but it didn't work out, and I didn't pursue it because it just happened in the conversation. So yeah, that's the kind of people that I've met along the way. And 2 years ago, Lori and I, along with many of you, got a chance to meet Bob Goff when he was here. And Bob, is pretty famous. He's written the best-selling book, Love Does, and I've been thinking about that, talking about love today, and then his new book, Everybody Always. And so now I've lived in South Florida for 25 years, and I've always wanted to meet, I really have. I've always wanted to meet one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. No, not Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady is the GOAT, and GOAT stands for the greatest of all time. I believe that he is. I mean, there's no question about that. I wish that he was a Dolphin and not a Patriot. I'm tempted to go over to the dark side, but I'm not, fellow Dolphin fans. I'm not. And so the Patriots, they won another Super Bowl. And was it not one of the most riveting, on the edge of your seats? I mean, epic Super Bowls ever? That's what somebody told me. I fell asleep in the third quarter, so I don't know if it was or not. It was just kind of fell flat. But anyway, okay, back to wanting to meet one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, Dan Marino. I've been down here for 23 years, and I'd never met Dan Marino. My son, Chris, he's 9 years old. He's got a picture of him and Marino. He met him. So many of you have met Dan Marino. I never had until I went to a Dolphins game a couple of years ago, and there he was, and he was so gracious. And Lori and I went over, and we had our photo taken with him. Here's the photo of us with Dan, and that was awesome. And that's a bucket list photo right there. Me and Marino. And yeah, I knew he was tall, but I had no idea he was that tall. I mean, you see him up front in person, and wow. Okay, all right, that's enough of that. All right, I want you to turn to the person next to you, and I want you to share the name of a person that you've met or seen up close. We'll do this just for a few seconds and go back and forth. Okay, go. Okay, you can finish that part with it. Now make sure the other person gets a chance to share. You can finish the story after the message. Make sure they get a chance to share. Okay, that's good. Bring it back, bring it back. Bring it back. You can finish the conversation after the message, or you can text it during the message, but don't have the actual conversation. So, but I'd prefer that you not text it during the message. So. And the truth about me is, when I've met somebody that I've really respected, Max Lucado or Francis Chan or John Maxwell or fake Marino or, I don't have any problem at all. But there's a battle that brews inside of me when I'm called to treat somebody well that's mistreating me. That food server that walked past me 4 times when all I wanted was a glass of water, just a refill, please, I'm dying here. Or that neighbor whose dog does awful things on my lawn, it's hard for me to want to treat them as better than myself. Anybody else have some of those struggles? Or am I the only one? Especially when somebody's not treating you well. Not treating you well. This Philippians chapter 2 is a tough test. It really is. It's so easy in a parking lot to treat yourself better than somebody else. It's so easy in a marriage to treat yourself better than your spouse. It's so easy as a boss to treat yourself better than your employees. It's so easy when you have money to consider yourself more important than those who don't. And this love level test, this LQ test from Philippians chapter 2, it's a tough test. It really is. Friends, Jesus Christ, God in the flesh, the most important person in the universe, demonstrates that true love considers everybody better. considers other people. Let's just consider them first. That's the start, to consider other people. And we can get to better after that. True love says treat regular people, treat family, treat employees, treat other races, treat people of the opposite political persuasion. Consider them better than yourself. Why? Because that's how God treats you. That's how God treats me. God treats you and me like a VIP. He does. I mean, he treats us incredibly, and he calls us to follow him. Now, my guess is we don't always pass this love test. And it's not that we don't understand this. We get it. It's not that we need another Bible study on love. It's not that we need another word study on the different kinds of love. We don't need that. The goal is clear. The challenge is not in the understanding. The challenge is just simply in the doing. Our challenge is in the implementation of this. Our challenge comes not into the knowing, but it comes into the action side of things. That's why I love what John said in 1 John chapter 3. He said, dear children, let us stop just saying that we love each other. Let us really show it by our actions, Paul has been called the apostle of faith. Peter has been called the apostle of hope. But John has been called the apostle of love. You read about John and he says, let's stop saying we just love each other. Let's really show it by our actions. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. We know we have our own phrases. The guy was always telling his girlfriend, honey, I would die for you. And she said, you're always telling me that, but you never do it. I mean, she wanted action. Action on that. Okay. One of the useful things I've found that helps me when I'm struggling in an area, and this is an area that I'll be honest, I struggle with, is to identify the struggle that I have in a particular area that I'm having it. You want to start loving more deeply, let love be your highest goal. I think Jesus might say, first of all, you need to test your love level. But secondly, I think he might want to say to us, well, locate your problem points. Understand what's a sticking point, what's a hurdle, what's slowing you from becoming better at loving other people, increasing your LQ. If we're struggling to love, it can help if we pinpoint the cause. You see, sometimes we fail to love deeply because unlike Jesus, we are just moving too fast. And this is a key one for me, just moving way too fast. We are fast-paced here in South Florida. We're always going, running. We got places to go, things to do, goals to achieve, quotas to meet, deals to cut. I mean, we've got all those things and more. And the pace of life here in South Florida, it can be seductive because the truth is, somebody told me before I came 25 years ago, said, be careful when you move to Fort Lauderdale. The pace will just chew you up because it's slower on the West Coast. And I came here and I love the pace. I mean, I lean into the pace. I mean, I love the energy. I love it. And so it can be detrimental, though, in so many ways that we don't even realize. Because I've discovered, and I know the truth about me, and I'm guessing it's the same thing, when you move so fast, everything around you becomes a blur. And all you see is what's ahead. And sometimes that's what we want. We want to become so goal-oriented that we don't even see the foo, as we're flying. And it's different than when you're flying the speed limit, down the road, when you're on 595 or the Sawgrass. And you don't see things, or when you're going down a path that, you're doing 30 or 40 miles an hour, and you just take it all in. And when you're moving so fast, it's one thing if you miss the billboards along the way, but it's another thing if you're moving so fast in life, you just miss the people along the way, even the people who are closest to you. You miss the signs, you miss the signals that somebody's dying, that somebody's hurting. You don't even see it because you're moving so fast, and I'm just talking about me, and I'm guessing I'm maybe talking about you. Jesus was able to set into motion an organization during his brief 3-year ministry that just changed the world. The church turned the world upside down. Here we are 2,000 years later, and 2 billion people are followers of Jesus at some level or another on our planet. And yet Jesus never moved so fast that he was uninterruptible for someone that just needed a touch or a word or a look of love. People would try to grab his attention, and when they did, he would just stop. Jesus says to us in Matthew 22:39, love your neighbor as yourself. In other words, slow down long enough, he's saying, put yourself in your neighbor's shoes and think about how it would feel to be that person. Because when we can identify with those who are around us, it's going to be more likely that we're going to be drawn to them because we see what's going on in your life. How would it feel to be disabled? to have to to have somebody to dress you, unable to drive yourself, unable to feed yourself? How would it feel to be unemployed, unable to make your mortgage payment or your rent payment or your car payment, unable to provide for your family, for your children? How would it feel to be widowed? How would it feel to lose a loved one? How would it feel to have Alzheimer's or ALS or cancer or AIDS? How would it feel? And we put ourselves in the position of the other person, that we begin to identify with them, and then we're drawn to them, and then we'll slow down. And so we have to ask that question. It's our goal at Community that not only would everyone who is here to feel welcomed here, we want everyone who believes here to feel like they belong here, that not everyone would just feel welcomed here, but everyone would feel cared for here. And it can happen. Friends, I think we're doing a pretty good job at this, but I think that we can go a long way, a lot farther, a lot deeper. I think we can get better at this. And I think that's what God is calling us as a church, to increase our LQ as an individual and also as a church. And when we're moving so fast, everything is just a blur. So maybe the key there is for us just to slow down. Bob Goff again, he said, following Jesus means living a life of constant interruptions. And if you're not constantly being interrupted, then probably you're moving so fast, or you're sending a signal out that you're just absolutely unapproachable. And as I've gotten older, I sometimes embrace the interruptions, because the truth is, sometimes the regular path that you're going over and over and over again, that path can get monotonous. It's the interruptions that bring life and joy and wonder. And so if we go slow enough, we just say, okay, God, what do you have for me today? And you see the people that are they're ready. And you want to add zest and energy to your life, just follow Jesus. It means living a life of constant interruptions. Maybe our problem is that we're exhausted and we're just flat running on fumes. One of the things that you quickly discover about love is that it takes energy. Loving other people can be exhausting. When you love, you get physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually depleted. One time, Jesus was in a crowd of people, and a woman touched the hem of his garment, and Jesus said in Luke 8, verse 45, he said, "Who touched me?" And they said, "What do you mean?" The disciples said, "What do you mean, who touched you? A lot of people have been bumping into you." No, he said, "Somebody touched me. I know that power has gone out from me." And this woman just touched the hem of his garment, not even his flesh, not even his body, just what he was wearing. Have you ever felt completely drained or depleted emotionally? I know you have. The truth about me is I can be a nice guy. I mean, I do like to laugh. There's not a big disconnect between who I am up here and who I am most of the time. But that's maybe most of the time. But the truth about me is that Saturdays are a challenging day for me, especially if I'm behind in message prep. And if I'm behind and I'm stressed, I get a condition that's known as PMS, preaching minister syndrome. And you know, I'll just be honest, I'm kind of a little edgy, you know. I'm not necessarily mean, I'm just edgy and focused and, you know, kind of leave me alone, and I need to do my stuff because I've got a responsibility. So that's Saturdays. So Saturdays aren't really good days for me, to be honest with you. I seldom do anything on a Saturday because I'm really focused for Sunday. And I love Sundays, like right now, if I'm prepared from Saturday. But Sunday, I gotta be honest with you, this is emotionally draining. It is, because I know that there's a lot hanging in the balance. And after doing this 4 times, well, after doing it a few times, 3 times, I mean, I start to have this adrenaline crash after the 1 o'clock service, and I try to take a nap, and I try to wake up, and I'm usually awake when I preach at 6 p.m., not every Sunday, but then you should come and just watch sometimes at 6. I'm just telling you. But then Sunday night when I get home, I mean, then there's the full adrenaline crash, and that's why Mondays are my days off, and Monday I have what us preaching pastors often call, I have the holy hangover on Monday. I just do. I mean, it's just draining. And I know that you have your emotionally draining times too. You just do. It just drains our energy. Love drains our energy, and just plain hard work sometimes. So let me talk about you. When you have your challenge day, when you come home from work, will you read to your kids, or just kind of chill in front of the TV and let it just wash over you? Will you play with your kids on a Saturday, or a Sunday or watch the game? Will you help out and wash the dishes and take that responsibility without thinking that you deserve a Congressional Medal of Honor or something? You know, I wash those dishes, I kind of clean that counter for you. Those are kind of things that I've done through the years, just making sure that Lori didn't miss those. So love drains energy. But when you know Jesus Christ and you spend time studying him, so maybe the biggest takeaway, one of them today is spend time with Jesus in his life and read about him. And maybe you get the story in our bookstore and you just read about Jesus and you see how he interacted with people and you see how Jesus, when he was around people, that oftentimes after that, he would pull away and it'd spend times of rest and times of refreshment. And there'd be a boat ride and the disciples are on the boat, but where's Jesus? He's asleep in the bottom of the boat. He's replenishing, and he would withdraw from them because he knew, as the creator of all things, that, well, we can't just continue to push and push and push and push without it affecting us. And so he would replenish. And sometimes the most spiritual thing that you can do for yourself is like Jesus, just rest. Replenish, sleep, but not right now, not right now. Don't sleep in church. Sleep in church actually will drain you of the energy. I was reading this past week, it's really an interesting study. Sleep in church actually will take years off of your life, according to a recent scientific study done by Harvard University that I'm just making up right now. Okay, it doesn't take years off your life, but okay. And if the best thing that you can do spiritually and the way I can add value is to kind of nod off a little bit, I'm okay with that. Just please don't snore. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking a lot there. So seriously, if we just go to bed a half an hour earlier, just a half an hour, if we ate healthier, if we stayed in shape, if we put some intentional breaks in our schedule, the Bible tells us, of the 10 commandments, 9 of them are repeated in the New Testament. The only one that's not as a command is to honor the Sabbath day. But if you think that that is not a principle that we need to incorporate into our lives, then we're flawed, we're mistaken. The Sabbath principle about replenishment and renewal is so critically important. Jesus, the Son of God, modeled this, and we need it so much more. Exodus 35, verse 2 says, each week work for 6 days only. The seventh day is a day of total rest, a holy day that belongs to the Lord. And so maybe not only not move so fast, but we make sure that we're intentional about replenishing our soul so that we can increase our LQ, so we can accomplish our highest goal, which is love. And I think it takes every ounce of energy to love deeply. I know I can be caustic. I can say all kinds of just not so wonderful things if I'm exhausted. I'd be willing to bet that Jesus would say that the biggest problem point that most of us have when it comes to loving deeply is he would say it's because we're using the wrong fuel. We're using the wrong fuel. We just determined that we're going to love better. So what we're going to do is, man, I'm this goal-oriented person, so I'm going to love better. I'm just going to pull myself up by my own bootstraps. I'm just going to double down. I'm going to love people better. Problem is, that doesn't really work so well. The Bible is very clear. There are 2 kinds of love in the world at work, and there's the normal, ordinary, generic, brand X kind of human love. That's the kind of love that's the natural love. And then there's this supernatural love, this love of another kind, this godly love, this love that God infuses inside of us. It's not us. And we go, wow, I'm being kinder to people than I normally am. Yeah, it's not you. It's God at work. And you can be thankful for that when God is at work in you. 1 John chapter 4, verse 8, again, John, the apostle of love, says, God is love, and God's kind of supernatural love for us. And so if you want to really look at love personified, you look at God. That's the love of another kind, and this will set us free. And God's love, it flows to people who don't deserve it. And that's certainly not a natural kind of love. God's love flows to people who don't give him anything back in return. Human kind of love, truth is conditional. I'll love you if you reciprocate in some kind of way. I'll keep loving you as long as there's some kind of return, as long as you respond back to me. As long as you make me feel good, I'll love you. Very conditional. Now, parent-child love is the closest thing I think that there is to unconditional love that we know. And then grandchild love is even greater than that I've discovered. And so here's a key verse related to this love of another kind, this supernatural love. Galatians chapter 5, verse 22, it says, when the Holy Spirit controls our lives, he'll produce this kind of fruit in us: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I wish I would have included not just this. I included the NLT because it says when God's Spirit is controlling us, when God is at work in us, then this is what's going to be demonstrated in our lives, the fruits of the Spirit. In the NIV, it says, now this, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience. So that's really interesting because many scholars believe that there aren't 9. There are 9 fruits of the Spirit in this translation, and every one. But in the NIV, it doesn't say the fruits of the Spirit are. It says the fruit of the Spirit is. And scholars will say there's only one fruit, and that fruit is love. And love expresses itself with joy. Love expresses itself with peace. Love expresses itself by being patient with other people. So whether there's 1 or 9, it's supernatural. It's God at work. What's the source? Jesus says in John 15:5 that the source of this kind of love is Jesus. Jesus said, I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who remain in me and I in them will produce much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If I took an orange tree and I sawed it off at the base and I brought it in here, I mean, there's fruit on the tree. It's not going to last very long. And there's certainly not going to be any new fruit that's going to come because the key to fruit is always the root. And the root of our fruit is Jesus. He says, I'm the vine, you're the branches, those who remain in me. So again, it always goes back to him. Jesus says, I'm the root, I'm the source of your strength. I want to reproduce my kind of love. And so if you're having a love challenge in loving other people, and I get that, I do. Sometimes, it's an energy thing. Sometimes I'm moving too fast, whatever it is. Spend more time with Jesus. Reading about him, talking to him, and he begins through his Spirit to work. And then you begin to have this love of another kind. He supernaturally infuses you with the power to love. It's non-natural. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3 says, as we know Jesus better, his divine power gives us everything that we need for living a godly life. And I think one of the reasons that we struggle in loving other people is that we are moving so fast. Not only are other people a blur, but Jesus is a blur. And we don't spend time with him. And we don't get to know him. But when we get to know him better, we begin to reflect him. The Apostle Paul said in Philippians 3, he said, out of all the things I've done, out of all the things that I could do, this one thing that I want to do is this: I want to know Christ and the power, this supernatural power, this resurrection power, the power for all things and the power to love other people that might be unlovely. That's what Paul says, that I want to know Christ and the power of his resurrection, because apart from him, I can't do anything at all. And I think the reason that many of us struggle with our LQ is we don't have the right fuel source. I think if Jesus was to appear in this room, he said, first of all, test your love level, give yourself an LQ test, locate your problem point, see what it is you're kind of slowing you down from this, and then connect to the power source is what he would say. You need to connect to the power source. When you know Jesus Christ and the power of his resurrection, he empowers you to love in ways that you never could in your own strength. And the source of his power is his Spirit, his Holy Spirit. God's presence in your life is a gift from God. When you become a follower of Jesus, you receive the indwelling presence of God's Spirit when you become a follower of Jesus. And God takes up residency inside of you, and he goes with you wherever you go, and he helps you to react in a supernatural way. And the Spirit of God begins to nudge you and prompt you and push you and alert you. Have you ever been nudged by the Spirit of God? I have, many, many times. Sometimes it happens when you're driving in the car. Sometimes it happens when you're having a conversation with a family member. Sometimes it's when you're at work. Sometimes it's when you're talking to a neighbor, when you're talking to a child. You just sense that God is just saying to you, hey, okay, whoa, Scott. Yeah, you can be snarky. It's not a value. Snarkiness is not one of the fruits of the Spirit. Pull it back. This person that you're talking to, they matter to me just as much as you matter to me. They don't matter to me more, but they don't matter to me less than you. So you treat them with kindness. You treat them with respect. That's how I'm treating you, and I want you to love them. They matter. And so we, through the power, this power source of the Spirit of God, we are alert to the nudgings and the promptings. But if you're flying flat down the expressway, everything's a blur. Jesus is a blur. The promptings, you just think that they're bumps in the road that you're hitting and you're not even aware. And so much is just slowing down, having an attitude of prayer, and just listening to God at work. Say, okay, God, I really do want to be more and more like Jesus. At the end of the day, I want love to be my highest goal. It might mean that I just didn't accomplish, every single thing that I set myself out to accomplish, but at the end, I accomplished what was most important. So let love be your highest goal. 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3, as we know Jesus better, his divine power gives us everything that we need for living a godly life. As we know Jesus better. Again, I get to know and meet and privileged to meet authors. It was a number of years ago. It was an event at a convention that I got a chance at a dinner to meet Rebecca Pippert Manley, and she wrote this great book called Out of the Salt Shaker and Into the World. And the salt is the salt shaker. It's the church. It's us, because she said, you are the salt of the earth. And what does salt do? Well, it's a preservative, and Jesus calls us to be salt, to be this preserving agent in our culture of his values. It also adds flavor and adds zest, and so we ought to add zest into the lives of other people. There's all kinds of things that we could talk about salt, but we need to get out of the salt shaker and into the world. And Rebecca Pippert, she told this story in her book about a young man in Portland, Oregon, a college student by the name of Bill. And Bill was an incredibly bright, brilliant young man. He wore the same outfit pretty much every day for this 4 years that he was in college. I mean, he had this wild hair, this long hair, this tattered t-shirt, ripped jeans, and no shoes. He just went barefoot everywhere. And that was Bill, but it's kind of brilliant and esoteric. And so anyway, there was this church that was across the street from the college, the university that Bill was attending. And the university, this church wasn't kind of like what I would say, highly relevant to culture. It's kind of more of a highbrow kind of a church. But they really had a heart to reach the students, but they weren't sure exactly how to do it. But they reached out to the students on the campus. So Bill showed up one Sunday. He was running late, and it was packed. And so Bill, he's walking in, it's kind of wild, unkempt hair, and his tattered t-shirt, his ripped jeans, barefoot. He was the only one that looked like that in this church, and he's walking down the aisle looking for a place to sit. He started in the back, and every single seat was taken in the pew, and he walked from the back, and he's about halfway, still no seat. Getting up to the front, he walks all the way to the front looking for a seat, and when he gets to the front, there were no seats anywhere. So rather than walking back, he just sat down right on the carpet in front of everybody. Now, as he's walking in, everybody's seeing Bill, because Bill was the only one who looked like Bill in this church, and they were anxious because they weren't sure what was going on. And the further Bill walked up, the more anxious they became. And then when he sat down, they were really kind of stressed what's going on. And the pastor's kind of looking down, and he's kind of wondering what's up too. And so then the pastor saw in the back the deacon. And the deacon was starting to make his way up to the front. And this deacon was in his 80s. He had silver hair. He was wearing a 3-piece suit. He had a pocket watch. He was dignified. This respectful elderly man, this kind of elegant, individual. And he had a cane because he was 80, and so as he was walking from the back to the front, it's kind of like everything stopped in this service. The pastor's trying to talk, but the only thing that anybody could hear was the cane that was clicking as the man was using his walking. And it was a slow walk for him to get up there. And people were watching this old man walk up to this young college kid, and they're thinking to themselves, they say, you can't blame him because of his age. You can't blame him because of his experience. He's not just going to be, he's got to do what he's going to do. He just doesn't understand this young man. And they just said, I know you just have to forgive him for what he's going to do. And so he's walking up, and they're all looking. And the pastor couldn't even speak till they addressed this situation. And so this old man, he walked up, and then he took his cane. Oh, I'll get back in the frame there. So he took his cane and he put it down on the ground, and then he lowered himself to the floor, and it was pretty difficult for him at 80 to do this, and he just sat down right next to Bill so that Bill would not have to be alone. And then everybody got really choked up over that. It wasn't what they expected. The pastor got choked up. And when he finally regained his composure, the pastor said, "What I'm about to preach, you will never remember. What you have just seen, you will never forget." You see, love talked about is easily ignored. Love demonstrated is irresistible. Jesus calls us to increase our LQ. He calls us to love those who are like us, to love those who are not like us. He calls us to an irresistible love of another kind, a supernatural kind of love that's infused by the power of His Spirit, who's nudging and prompting and moving inside of us. And when we do that, then we can do what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 14:1, let love be your highest goal. And when love is your highest goal, and you're slowing down and you're tapping into the power source of Christ Jesus Himself, and you're listening, and you're watching, and you're alerted to by the Spirit to people who are crying out, if we'll just see the needs, then we'll accomplish our highest goal. And when you do that, when I do that, when our church does that, we will have our best year ever. You will have your best year ever. I will have my best year ever. And then that's my prayer, friends, for all of us, that love will be our highest goal. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, wow, this one's a big one. This is a challenge to think of other people always, to think like Jesus, to act like Jesus, to love like Jesus, to live like Jesus. So, Father, it's my prayer that we would do that we would ask that age-old question. It's not antiquated. It is so relevant. What would Jesus do? How would He respond? Father, I pray that we would ask that, and then we would wait for your Spirit to prompt us, so we would let love be our highest goal, God. And when we do that, the truth is that this life that you want us to have, our best life ever, it becomes this amazing journey because the interruptions become the source of some of our greatest joy. So, Father, I pray that you would help us not to be afraid of interruptions, which really, they are just divine appointments that you've created for us to reflect love if we would just slow down long enough to be interrupted. So, Father, I pray for me that I would be more interruptible this week. Father, I pray for those in this church that we would all be more interruptible this week, and that love, well, it would be not only our highest goal, but it would be something that is honoring to you. And we pray this in Jesus' name and for His sake today. Amen.
Just stand with us, please.
This sweetest frame, but only trust in Jesus' name. Let's sing that again. And my hope is built on nothing the sweetest frame, but only trust in Jesus' name. Oh, sing Christ alone, cornerstone, the weak made strong in the Savior's love, and through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. When darkness seems to hide His face, I rest on Him, I rest on His unchanging grace. Oh, in every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. My anchor holds within the veil. Oh, Christ alone, cornerstone, weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all, the Lord of Christ alone, Christ alone, cornerstone, strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of Christ alone, cornerstone, the weak made strong in the Savior's love. Through the storm, He is Lord, Lord of all. He is He shall come with trumpet sound. Oh, may I then in Him be found. Oh, dressed in His righteousness alone, faultless, faultless stand before the throne. Oh.
Amen. Faultless stand before the throne. God, let's pray. Thank you, God, so much that we were just able to come together, continue to worship your name, continue to stand on that truth, God. When that trumpet sounds, we come back, God. We are faultless because of that sacrifice you made, God. And we just want to take a time to pause and remember that sacrifice, God. We thank you so much for Jesus. In His name that we pray. Amen.
Every week we have this opportunity to give. And every time we have the opportunity to give, we're given to something that God is doing. God is doing an incredible work in this church through the ministry that goes on every day, to the outreach opportunities, this wave of outreach that we have, the reaching into the community and all around the world, and this wave of expansion as we're getting ready to expand with a new building and even in this room so we can continue to reach more and more people with the hope of Jesus. And so every time we give, we're asking God to just use this to continue the ministry, the work that he is doing, and then thanking him for allowing us to be a part of that. Let's pray. God, we are so humbled and so grateful right now for the opportunity to be a part of the work that you're doing here through this church, all that you're doing in this community and around the world. And God, so as we give and as we give generously today, God, may you take and bless it, bless those who give. And it's in Jesus' name, amen.
Our ushers are coming forward right now to receive our offering. As they do, I want to encourage you to go ahead and take out that communication card that we asked you to fill out a little while ago. Drop that in the offering basket and let us know that you're here. If you're a guest with us today, so glad that you've joined us. And if you're new and I haven't met you, I'm always in the central lobby. Come on out and say hello on your way out today. I would love to be able to meet you. And again, Bill mentioned Starting Point. Would love to have you join us for Starting Point 2 weeks from today. Just you can sign up online or on that card. Tickets are available today at Connecting Point for our women's event, Everything Beautiful. That's going to take place on Saturday, March the 3rd. Tonight, again, is Watoto Choir Concert. We've been looking forward to this literally for 2 years, since they were here last. I mean, it's one of the most incredible nights. You just take what you experienced this morning, multiply it by 10. It's going to be phenomenal, so I want to encourage you to come. Now, there are two, because we have so many people that want to be here, we have two opportunities, two concerts, one at 5 and one at 7. Now, last year, or 2 years ago when we had this, the 5 o'clock p.m. was the more attended, and it was literally standing room only people that were, and we were smaller than people were, they were seated in lobbies, and, we've got all kinds of, places that you can view if you can't even make it into this room. So here's the thing. We know that families with kids are going to come at 5. It's just too late to come at 7, get done at 8:15, get home at 8:30 at the earliest, 8:45, kids and school day and all that. So we know that. So if you don't have kids, and if you're able to, we really want to encourage you to come at 7. There's still going to be 700, 800, 1,000 people here at 7 o'clock, so it's not like you're going to come and there's not any energy. There's a ton of energy both times, but you'll be able to help out either way. And so we hope that you'll be able to be a part of this. And here's, maybe it's not your first LQ test of the day. That's going to be when you leave our parking lot right after you leave or when you're walking out the door. But here's another one when you come back. If you do get here early, which I encourage you to do so you can get a good seat, is that we need many of you to consider parking at Gold Coast School. They allow us to park over there or in our Northwest field so that our guests, when they come, they'll be able to have a place to park that's a little closer to the building because they don't really know how to navigate around and where everything is. That'd just be a great thing. Then lastly, come prepared for the love offering tonight. It's a free concert, but we just want to bless their ministry of Watoto. It's an amazing ministry that we get to partner with. So Winterfest is this coming Saturday. Check out this video on the screen.
Snow is coming to community. Real snow. Winterfest is one of the coolest places to be for community kids. Children birth through 5th grade and their families are invited to share in a day full of wintry fun at Winterfest on Saturday, February 16th from 3 to 6 p.m. Kids will experience sledding down a snow hill or brave the giant snow mountain. Or they can encounter one of the Polar Express slides. If that's not enough, there will be bounce houses for all ages, mini crafts, face tattoos, music, and more surprises. A $5 admission for those ages 2 through 5th grade includes activities and refreshments. Children under the age of 2 are free. Register today at communitycc.com. There's no place you'd rather be.
It's going to be a lot of fun on Saturday. Parents, you don't want to miss it. And there will be snow in South Florida. How do we know? We're paying a lot of money for this snow. We are. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's worth it just to bring a smile to the kids, and it's a fun time. So Winterfest is awesome, so don't miss it this coming Saturday. As a matter of fact, there are invitations in your program, little invite pack, and so take advantage of these. Invite the neighbors, the coworkers that have kids, and they'll have a great time. What a great on-ramp for people spiritually to come to an event like this and people come to an event a couple times, and then parents might check out church, and so that'd be a great thing for you to do. This coming Thursday, as I mentioned, is Valentine's Day, but this coming Thursday is also the 1-year anniversary of the horrific tragedy that's just wrecked South Florida in so many ways. The shooting, 17 deaths, 17 injuries at Stoneman Douglas High School. There are a lot of things that I've been watching that have been playing out in this 1-year anniversary, and as a church we want to pray because the wounds that happened are deep and they still haven't healed. And I had no idea a year ago how many relational connections that we have in this church to Parkland and to Stoneman Douglas High School. And so it's our prayer that Jesus would continue to bring healing, that he would bring peace, and that we would be agents of his grace as a church. So would you just join with me as we pray together today? Heavenly Father, we come to you, and we know, God, that you call us to bring good out of evil, to not be overcome by evil. God, you call us to not only be salt that preserves your values in our culture, but to be light that shines greatest in the midst of the darkness. So, Father, I pray that you would help us individually to show love and compassion, and that, God, that we would be a light that would help people to find their way out of the darkness, and that light is ultimately through Christ Jesus. Father, I pray that you would help us individually and as a church to point to him as the way to ultimate healing. Father, I just lift those families and those individuals who have been affected most greatly from this tragedy. We lift them up before you, God. I pray through the power of your Spirit that they would just know your love and your grace. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. If you've never made a faith commitment to Jesus Christ, today you can do that. We always sing a final song. We always have an invitation. You can always come forward after the service is over, after we sing this final song. You come forward, you talk to somebody. If you want Jesus to be your Savior and Lord, you want this supernatural power in your life, the gift of God's Spirit. You not only have the best possible life in the here and now and the hope of heaven and the hereafter, but you have this friend, this comforter, this counselor, the Spirit of Jesus, the Holy Spirit, who will be with you and guide you and direct you. And that can all be yours today. Just come talk to one of our counselors at the end of the service. Let's all stand for our closing song. Look forward to seeing you tonight.
Heavy, the chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open. 'Cause when you call my name,
Thanks so much for joining us today. Come back and join us tonight.